The clock on Marcus Sterling's gold watch showed exactly 5:45 p.m. when he heard the familiar sound of paws running across his marble floor. Max, his golden retriever, was already at the door, wagging his tail like crazy. This meant only one thing. Emma was here. Marcus looked at himself in the big mirror by his bedroom. His black suit cost more than most people made in a month. His shoes were Italian leather. His watch was worth $50,000. Everything about him screamed money and success. But right now, none of that mattered. He had a big problem. Tonight was the most important night of his business life. 3 very rich Japanese men were coming to dinner. They wanted to give him millions of dollars to help his tech company grow bigger. But there was one small problem. He needed to bring someone with him to the dinner. In business, especially with traditional families like the Takahashi Group, coming alone looked bad. It made him seem lonely and unsuccessful. For the past 2 years, Marcus always brought Rebecca to these dinners. She was beautiful, smart, and knew exactly what to say to impress important people. But Rebecca was gone now. Last month, after a huge fight about getting married, she packed her bags and moved to London. Marcus still felt angry when he thought about their last conversation. She called him cold and said he cared more about money than people. Maybe she was right. The doorbell rang and pulled Marcus out of his thoughts. He walked to the front door and opened it. There stood Emma Rodriguez, just like every other day for the past 8 months. She was 24 years old, but looked younger. Her brown hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She wore old jeans with small holes in them and a sweater. That had seen better days. Her sneakers were so worn out that the bottom was starting to come apart. But when Emma smiled, something happened to Marcus's chest. It felt warm and light. Her smile was real. It was not like the fake smiles he saw at business meetings or fancy parties. When Emma looked at him, she did not see dollar signs. She just saw Marcus. "Hi, Mr. Sterling," Emma said as Max jumped up. On her legs, she laughed and scratched behind his ears. "Someone is excited to see me today." Marcus watched Emma with his dog. Max loved everyone, but he acted different with Emma. He was calmer, happier. Even Marcus felt more relaxed when Emma was around. She had this way of making everything feel normal and simple. Emma worked 3 different jobs to pay for college. She walked dogs in the morning, worked at a coffee shop in the afternoon, and studied at night. Marcus knew this because sometimes he asked her questions about her life. He liked listening to her talk about her dreams of starting her own business someday. She wanted to help small companies grow, just like his company, but for people who did not have millions of dollars. "Emma," Marcus said as she clipped the leash on Max. "Can I talk to you for a minute?" Emma looked surprised. Usually Marcus just said hello and goodbye. Sometimes he asked about her classes, but they never had long conversations. "Sure," she said. "Is everything okay?" Marcus ran his hand through his hair. This was harder than asking investors for money. "I need to ask you something strange. You can say no, and it will not change your job here." Emma waited. Max sat between them, looking back and forth like he was watching a tennis match. "I have a very important business dinner tonight," Marcus began. "There are some men from Japan who want to invest in my company. In their culture, it looks bad if I come alone. I need someone to come with me." Emma's eyes got bigger. "Oh," she said quietly. "My usual. The person I normally take." She moved away. Marcus continued. Could not bring himself to say the word girlfriend or ex. "Fiancé. I know this is not your normal job, but I would pay you $5,000 for one evening. You would just need to be there, maybe talk a little bit, but nothing too complicated. $5,000. Emma felt like someone had hit her in the stomach. She made about $1,500 a month from all her jobs combined. $5,000 would pay her rent for 3 months. It would pay her overdue tuition bill. It would mean she could buy groceries without counting every penny. But Emma also felt scared. She looked down at her old clothes, then at Marcus in his expensive suit. "Mr. Sterling, I don't think I'm the right person for this. I've never been to a fancy restaurant. I don't know how to act around rich people. What if I say something wrong and ruin your business deal?" Marcus studied Emma's face. She looked worried and uncertain, but also honest. That was exactly what he needed. "Emma, do you know why I started asking you about your life?" She shook her head. "Because when you talk, you mean what you say. When you smile, it's real. When you care about something, it shows." Marcus sat down on his expensive couch, so he was at Emma's eye level. "I've been to hundreds of business dinners. Everyone there acts fake, say things they don't mean. They pretend to be friends when they just want something." Emma listened carefully. She had never heard Marcus talk like this before. These Japanese investors, they're old-fashioned. They care about respect and honesty more than fancy clothes. "Or perfect manners," Marcus continued. "I think they would like you exactly the way you are." Emma looked around Marcus's huge apartment. Everything was perfect and expensive. The furniture probably cost more than her parents made in a year. How could someone like her fit into his world, even for one night? "I don't have the right clothes," Emma said softly. "We can fix that," Marcus replied quickly. "Tomorrow morning, we'll go shopping. I'll buy you whatever you need." Emma's mind was racing. Her tuition payment was due in 1 week. If she didn't pay it, she would have to drop out of college. She had been trying to figure out how to get the money for weeks. This seemed like a miracle, but it also seemed too good to be true. "What exactly would I have to do?" Emma asked. "Just be yourself. Sit at dinner, eat some food, smile when people talk to you. Maybe answer some questions about what you're studying or what you want to do after college. That's it." Max walked over to Emma and put his head on her knee. It was like he was trying to tell her something. Emma looked into the dog's brown eyes, then up at Marcus. "Okay," she said quietly. "I'll do it." Marcus felt a huge relief wash over him. "Really? Really? But Mr. Sterling, what if I mess this up?" Marcus stood up and smiled at Emma. It was the first real smile she had seen from him in months. "You won't mess it up, Emma. Just be the same person you are, right here, right now." As Emma left with Max for their evening walk, Marcus sat back down on his couch. He had solved his problem for the dinner, but something else was happening. For the first time in months, he felt excited about something that was not related to making money outside. Emma walked Max through the park like always. But tonight felt different. Tomorrow, her life was going to change, at least for one evening. She just hoped she was strong enough to handle Marcus's world without losing herself in it. Neither Marcus nor Emma knew that this simple conversation would start something that would change both of their lives forever. Sometimes the most important moments begin with just one person asking for help, and another person being brave enough to say yes. Emma could not sleep all night. She kept thinking about Marcus's offer and the fancy dinner. $5,000 felt like a dream, but she was also very nervous. What if she said something stupid? What if she used the wrong fork? What if the rich Japanese men did not like her? She looked at her small apartment. The paint was old and coming off the walls. Her bed was just a mattress on the floor. Clothes hung on a rope she had put up because she did not have a real closet. How could someone like her pretend to belong in Marcus's world? The next morning, Emma's phone rang at exactly 9 o'clock. It was Marcus. "Good morning, Emma. Are you ready to go shopping?" His voice sounded different today. More excited? "I guess so," Emma said. She was wearing her best jeans and a clean t-shirt, but she still felt underdressed for whatever was coming. Marcus picked her up in his expensive black car. The seats were made of soft leather, and everything was spotless. Emma had never been in such a fancy car before. She was afraid to touch anything. "Where are we going?" Emma asked as they drove through the city. "Fifth Avenue," Marcus replied. "There's a store there that has everything we need." Emma had walked past the fancy stores on Fifth Avenue many times, but she had never gone inside. The clothes and the windows cost more money than she made in months. Just looking at the price tags made her feel sick. When they stopped in front of Bergdorf Goodman, Emma's heart started beating fast. "Mr. Sterling, I can't go in there. This place is for rich people." Marcus turned off the car and looked at Emma. "Today, you are going to be in my world. That means you belong in places like this. Trust me." Inside the store, everything was beautiful and expensive. The floors were shiny marble. The lights were bright but soft. Even the air smelled expensive, like flowers and something else Emma could not name. A tall woman with perfect hair and makeup walked over to them. Her name tag said Patricia. She looked at Emma's old clothes and her face showed that she was not impressed. "Can I help you?" Patricia asked in a cold voice. She was clearly looking at Emma like she did not belong there. Marcus stepped forward. "We need a complete outfit for a business dinner tonight. Something elegant but not too flashy." He pulled out his black credit card. "Money is not a problem." Patricia's whole attitude changed when she saw the credit card. Suddenly she was smiling and very friendly. "Of course, sir." "Right this way." Emma followed Patricia through the store. There were dresses everywhere, in every color she could imagine. Some had sparkles, some had lace, some looked like they belonged on movie stars. Emma was afraid to touch anything. "What size are you, dear?" Patricia asked Emma. I think a 6 or 8, Emma replied quietly. Patricia looked Emma up and down like she was judging her. "Let's try some different sizes. You never know with these designer pieces." For the next 2 hours, Emma tried on dress after dress. Some were too big, some were too small, some were beautiful, but felt wrong on her body. Marcus sat in a comfortable chair outside the dressing room, giving his opinion on each dress. Too formal, he said about a long black dress. Too young, he said about a short pink one. Too much, he said about one covered in gold sequins. Then Emma came out wearing a navy blue dress that went down to her knees. It was simple but elegant. The color made her brown eyes look darker and more mysterious. The dress fit her perfectly, showing her figure without being too tight or too loose. Marcus stopped talking mid-sentence when he saw her. His mouth opened a little bit, like he was surprised. "This one," he said quietly. "This is perfect." Emma looked at herself in the big mirror. She had never worn anything so beautiful in her life. The dress made her feel different, taller, more confident, more important. But when she saw the price tag, she gasped. The dress cost $3,000. "I can't wear something this expensive," Emma whispered to Marcus. "What if I spill something on it? What if I rip it?" "Emma, you look beautiful," Marcus said. His voice was soft and kind. "This dress was made for someone like you." Next, Patricia brought shoes. High heels that made Emma feel like she was walking on stilts. She had never worn heels higher than 1 inch, and these were at least 3 inches tall. Across the store, holding on to things so she would not fall. "I'm going to fall down and embarrass you," Emma said to Marcus. "You'll be fine. We can practice walking later," Marcus replied with a smile. After shoes came jewelry, Patricia showed. Them necklaces, earrings, and bracelets that sparkled under the store lights. Emma was afraid to even touch them. The necklace Patricia put around Emma's neck cost more than Emma's car. "Just for tonight," Marcus told Emma when he saw her worried face. "Tomorrow you can go back to being regular Emma." The last stop was the hair salon upstairs. Emma had never been to a real salon before. She usually cut her own hair or asked her roommate to do it. The stylist, a man named Antonio, looked at Emma's simple ponytail and shook his head. "You have work to do, Antonio," said dramatically. For an hour, Antonio washed, cut, and styled Emma's hair. He used products that smelled like expensive flowers, used tools Emma had never seen before. When he was finished, Emma looked in the mirror and did not recognize herself. Her hair was still brown, but now it was shiny and smooth. It was shaped around her face in a way that made her look older and more sophisticated. Antonio had also done her makeup. Not too much, but enough to make her eyes look bigger and her lips look fuller. "Perfect," Antonio said, standing back to admire his work. When Emma walked back to Marcus, he stood up from his chair quickly. He stared at her for a long moment without saying anything. "Do I look okay?" Emma asked nervously. "You look," Marcus started, then stopped. "You look incredible." Emma felt her cheeks get warm. No one had ever called her incredible before. On the drive back to Marcus's apartment, Emma looked at herself in the car mirror. The person looking back at her looked like someone from a magazine, someone who belonged at fancy dinners and important meetings. "Emma," Marcus said as they stopped at a red light. "Are you okay? You're very quiet." I'm scared, Emma admitted. What if I can't do this? What if I say something wrong and ruin your business deal? Marcus pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to look at Emma. Listen to me. These men are not just looking at my company. They're looking at me as a person. They want to know if I'm someone they can trust, someone who treats people well, someone who has good values. Emma listened carefully. When they meet you tonight, they're going to see someone who is honest and kind and real. Those are the things that matter most to them, Marcus continued. Just be yourself, Emma. That's all you need to do. Men nodded, but she still felt nervous. In a few hours, she would be sitting at a table with some of the richest people in the world, pretending to belong in their world. She just hoped Marcus was right about being herself being enough. As they drove toward Marcus's apartment, Emma looked out the window at the city. Tonight her life would be completely different, even if it was just for a few hours. She wondered if she would ever feel normal again after experiencing what it was like to live like a rich person. Neither Emma nor Marcus knew that the hardest part was still ahead of them. Getting dressed up was easy compared to what would happen at the dinner table. At 7 o'clock, Marcus and Emma arrived at La Bernardine, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. The cheapest dish cost more than she spent on food in a whole week. The restaurant looked like something from a fairy tale. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Every table had white cloth so clean it looked like snow. The floors were so shiny, Emma could see her reflection in them. Even the air felt different here, quiet and important. Emma held Marcus's arm as they walked through the restaurant. Her new high heels made clicking sounds on the floor. She was trying hard not to fall down. Everyone they passed looked rich and important. The women wore jewelry that sparkled under the lights. The men wore suits that probably cost more than Emma's car. Remember, Marcus whispered to Emma as they walked. Just be yourself. Answer questions if they ask you something, but don't worry. About impressing anyone? Emma nodded, but her hands were shaking. She felt like everyone in the restaurant was looking at her, like they could tell she did not belong there. A waiter in a perfect black suit led them to a private section of the restaurant. There, 3 Japanese men stood waiting by a round table. Emma's heart started beating so fast she thought it might jump out of her chest. The oldest man was clearly the most important. He was maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and kind eyes behind expensive glasses. He stood very straight and looked very serious. This was Mr. Takahashi. Next to him stood a younger man who looked like him but was maybe 35 years old. This was Hiroshi, Mr. Takahashi's son. He smiled more than his father, but Emma could tell he was also very smart and careful. The third man was shorter and wore a different style of suit. He had a small notebook in his hand and kept looking back and forth between Marcus and the Takahashi. Men, this was Mr. Sato, their translator. Mr. Sterling, Mr. Takahashi said with a small bow. It is good to meet you in person. Marcus bowed back, then turned to Emma. This is Emma Rodriguez. She is my companion for this evening. Emma felt her face get hot when Marcus said companion. She was not sure what that meant exactly, but she hoped it sounded better than dog walker who needs money. Mr. Takahashi looked at Emma carefully. His eyes were sharp, like he was trying to figure something out about her. Then he smiled a little bit and bowed to her too. It is nice to meet you, Miss Rodriguez, he said in careful English. It's nice to meet you too, Emma replied. She tried to bow like she had seen in movies, but she was not sure if she did it right. They all sat down at the round table. Emma was between Marcus and Hiroshi. The table was set with more forks, knives, and spoons than Emma had ever seen in one place. There were 3 different glasses at each seat. Emma had no idea which one to use for what. As soon as they sat down, Marcus changed. Emma had never seen him like this before. He started talking in a voice that sounded more formal and businesslike. He used big words and talked about numbers and markets and strategies. This was not the same Marcus who talked to her about her college classes or laughed when Max did something funny. Our company has grown 200% in the last 3 years, Marcus was saying. We see Asia as the next big opportunity. For expansion, double quotes, Mr. Takahashi and Hiroshi listened carefully. Sometimes they asked questions about Marcus's business. Sometimes they talked quietly to each other in Japanese, while Mr. Sato translated. Emma tried to follow the conversation, but It was hard. They were talking about things like market penetration and scalability and return on investment. These were words Emma had heard in her business classes. But hearing them in real life was different. The first course arrived, something that looked like soup but was not quite soup. Emma watched carefully to see which spoon the others used. She copied exactly what Mr. Takahashi did. The food tasted good, but Emma was too nervous to really enjoy it. "Miss Rodriguez," Hiroshi said suddenly, turning to Emma. "What do you do for work?" Emma almost choked on her soup. This was the question. She had been afraid of, what should she say? That she walked dogs and made coffee? That would make Marcus look bad. "I'm a student," Emma said carefully. "I'm studying business at the community college." "What kind of business interests you?" Mr. Takahashi asked. His English was very good, but he spoke slowly and carefully. Emma thought about this question. She could lie and say something that sounded impressive. But Marcus had told her to be herself. "I want to help small businesses," Emma said. "Not big companies. Like Mr. Sterling's, but little ones. Like family restaurants or small shops. I think they need help too, but they can't afford expensive consultants." Mr. Takahashi looked interested. "That is very noble. Small businesses are the heart of any economy." Emma felt a little bit of relief. Maybe she had said something right. Conversation went back to business talk. Marcus and the Japanese men discussed numbers and contracts and timelines. Emma listened and tried to look interested, but her mind kept wandering. She started looking around the restaurant. Everyone looked so perfect and rich. The waiters moved like dancers, never making mistakes or spilling anything. The other diners talked quietly and laughed softly, like they were all part of some secret club. Then Emma excused herself to go to the bathroom. She needed a moment to breathe and think. As she walked through the restaurant, she heard voices coming from the kitchen area. Someone was yelling, and it did not sound happy. Emma followed the sound and saw a scene that made her heart hurt. Young man, maybe 18 years old, was standing in front of an angry chef. The boy looked scared and was holding pieces of broken plates. The chef was yelling at him in English mixed with what sounded like curse words. "You stupid boy." The chef was saying, "These plates cost $50 each. You will pay for every one." The young man was trying to say something in Spanish, but the chef kept yelling over him. Emma could see tears in the boy's eyes. He looked terrified. Emma understood Spanish perfectly. Her parents had made sure she could speak both English and Spanish fluently. She could hear the young man trying to explain that it was an accident, that he was sorry, that he needed this job. Without thinking about it, Emma stepped forward. "Excuse me," she said to the chef. Both the chef and the young man looked surprised to see a woman in an expensive dress standing in the kitchen doorway. "This is not your business, lady," the chef said rudely. "Go back to your table." But Emma did not move. She looked at the young man and spoke to him in Spanish. "What's your name?" "Diego," the boy answered quietly. "It's okay, Diego, everyone makes mistakes," Emma said in Spanish. Then she turned back to the chef. "There's no need to be so mean to him. It's just a kid." The chef's face got red. "He broke expensive plates. He's clumsy and stupid." Emma felt anger rising in her chest. This chef reminded her of every boss who had ever been mean to her. Every teacher who had looked down on her because she was poor. Every person who had made her feel small and unimportant. "He's not stupid," Emma said firmly. "He's learning. And yelling at him won't make him learn faster." The chef looked shocked that someone was standing up to him. Diego looked shocked too, but also grateful. Emma realized what she had done. She was supposed to be helping Marcus with his business dinner, not getting into fights in the kitchen. She hurried back to the table, hoping no one had noticed how long she had been gone. But when she sat down, she could not stop thinking about Diego. Marcus noticed that something had changed about her mood. "Are you okay?" Marcus whispered to her. "I'm fine," Emma whispered back. But she was not fine. She was thinking about how different her world was from this restaurant, and how some people treated others badly just because they had more money or power. The conversation at the table continued. I found it harder to focus. She kept thinking about Diego in the kitchen, wondering if he was okay, wondering if he would get fired because of the broken plates. She did not know that her night was about to get much more complicated. The main course arrived with great ceremony. 3 waiters brought their plates at exactly the same time. The food looked like art, perfectly arranged vegetables and meat that Emma could not even identify. Everything was beautiful, but Emma could barely taste it. She kept thinking about Diego in the kitchen. Marcus was in the middle of explaining his company's 5-year plan to Mr. Takahashi when Emma saw something that made her stomach drop. Diego was walking toward their table, carrying a silver coffee. Service. His hands were still shaking from his encounter with the chef earlier. Behind Diego, Emma could see the angry chef watching from the kitchen door. His arms were crossed and his face looked mean. Emma could tell he was just waiting for Diego to make another mistake so he could yell at him again. As you can see from these numbers, Marcus was saying, showing papers to Hiroshi, our prophet, margins have increased every quarter for the past 2 years. Diego reached their table and began to pour coffee very carefully. His hands were trembling so much that Emma was afraid he might spill something. She wanted to help him, but she did not know how without making it worse. Mr. Takahashi was asking Marcus about his plans for hiring in Asia when Diego moved to pour coffee into the older man's cup. Emma watched in slow motion as Diego's shaking hands caused the coffee pot to tilt too much. A small amount of coffee spilled onto the perfect white tablecloth. The spill was tiny, barely the size of a coin, but it looked huge on the clean white fabric. Diego's face went completely white. He looked terrified. Before Emma could think about what to do, the chef appeared at their table like magic. His face was red with anger. "I'm so sorry," the chef said to the table, but his voice was not sorry at all. It was angry and embarrassed. "This boy is new and very clumsy. Diego, what did I tell you about being careful?" Diego stood frozen, holding the coffee pot. He looked like he might cry or run away or both. "It's fine," Marcus said quickly, trying to keep the situation calm. "It's just a small spill. No problem." But the chef was not finished. "Is not acceptable. In a restaurant like this, we do not make mistakes like this. Diego, you will clean this up immediately, and then we will talk about your future here." The way the chef said future made it clear that Diego would not have a job much longer. Emma felt her heart racing. Everyone at the table was looking uncomfortable. Mr. Takahashi and Hiroshi were watching carefully, but they did not say anything. Marcus looked worried about how this might affect his business deal. Diego started to clean up the spill with a cloth, but his hands were shaking so badly that he knocked over a water glass. The water spilled across the table toward Mr. Takahashi's. "Papers! That's it!" the chef shouted. "You are finished. You will pay for the damage, and then you will leave." Emma watched Diego's face crumble. She saw him mouth the word no in Spanish. She knew he was thinking about his sick mother, about the money he needed, about how he would explain losing another job. Something inside Emma snapped. She stood up from her chair so fast that it made a loud scraping sound on the floor. Everyone at the table looked at her in surprise. "Stop it," Emma said to the chef. Her voice was loud and clear. "Just stop it right now." The chef looked shocked. "Excuse me, lady, but this is not your business." "Yes, it is my business," Emma said, her voice getting stronger. "This boy is doing his best. Everyone makes mistakes. There is no reason to be so cruel to him." Marcus felt his heart stop. This was exactly what he had been afraid of. Emma was making a scene at the most important business dinner of his life. He could see Mr. Takahashi and Hiroshi watching everything very carefully. "Emma," Marcus said quietly, trying to get her to sit down. But Emma was not listening to Marcus. She was looking at Diego, who was still standing there with tears in his eyes. "What's your name?" Emma asked Diego in Spanish. "Diego," he answered quietly. "Diego, how old are you?" Emma continued in Spanish. 18, Diego replied. "Is this your first week here?" Emma asked. "Yes," Diego said. "I need this job for my mother. She is sick and needs medicine." Emma felt tears in her own eyes. She turned back to the chef, who was getting angrier by the minute. "He's 18 years old," Emma said to the chef. "This is his first week. He made a mistake. He did not do it on purpose." "I don't care how old he is," the chef said rudely. "He is clumsy and stupid. He does not belong in a restaurant like this." That was the moment Emma lost control. She stepped closer to the chef, her eyes blazing with anger. "He is not stupid," Emma said loudly enough for other people in the restaurant to hear. "He is scared because you keep yelling at him. He is young and he is learning. If you were a good teacher, you would help him get better instead of trying to destroy his confidence." The entire restaurant had gotten quiet. People at other tables were turning to look at their table. Emma realized that everyone was staring at her, but she did not care anymore. "You have no right to talk to him like that," Emma continued. "Is a human being. He deserves respect. The fact that you have more experience or more power does not give you the right to be cruel." Marcus wanted to disappear. He could see his business deal falling apart in front of his eyes. Months of work, millions of dollars, all ruined because Emma could not control herself. The chef's face was purple with rage. "Who do you think you are? You come into my restaurant and tell me how to run my kitchen? I am someone who knows what." "It's like to work hard for every dollar," Emma shot back. "I am someone who knows what it's like to be afraid of losing a job because you need the money. I am someone who thinks people should be kind to each other, especially to people who are just trying to survive." Mr. Takahashi had been watching this entire scene without saying a word. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were very alert. He was taking in everything Emma was saying and doing. Diego was still standing there, looking back and forth between Emma and the chef like he was watching a tennis match. He could not believe that this beautiful, rich-looking woman was defending him. "Emma, please," Marcus said, trying one more time to get her to sit down and be quiet. Emma looked at Marcus. For a moment she remembered where she was and what she was supposed to be doing. She was supposed to be helping him get his business deal. She was supposed to be quiet and polite and not cause any trouble, but then she looked at Diego again. Oh, and she could not bring herself to be quiet. "I'm sorry, Marcus," Emma said. "This is important to you, but some things are more important than money." She turned back to the chef. "Leave him alone. He's doing his best. You can't see that. Then maybe you're the one who doesn't belong in a restaurant like this." The chef opened his mouth to say something back, but before he could speak, a voice cut through the tension. "That is enough," Mr. Takahashi said quietly. But his voice carried so much authority that everyone stopped talking immediately. The old man stood up slowly from his chair. Everyone at the table held their breath, waiting to see what he would do. Emma realized what she had done. She had just ruined Marcus's business deal. She had embarrassed him in front of the most important clients of his career. She had let her emotions control her. Now Marcus would lose millions of dollars because of her. She sat down heavily in her chair, her face red with shame and anger and fear. "I'm sorry," she whispered to Marcus. "I'm so sorry." Was not looking at her. He was looking at Mr. Takahashi, trying to figure out what the old man was thinking. The silence at the table felt like it lasted forever. Nobody knew what would happen next. The silence at the table felt like it lasted for hours, but it was probably only 30 seconds. Emma stared at her hands in her lap, too embarrassed to look at anyone. Marcus was trying to think of something to say that might save his business deal. The chef stood nearby, still angry but now uncertain, because Mr. Takahashi had told him to be quiet. Diego had not moved. He was still holding the coffee pot, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Finally, Mr. Takahashi spoke. His voice was calm and quiet, but everyone in the restaurant could hear him clearly. "In my 60 years of life," he began, "I have attended many business dinners. I have met with hundreds of people who wanted my family's money. They have all tried very hard to impress me." Emma felt her heart sinking. This was it. Mr. Takahashi was going to tell Marcus that the deal was off. She had ruined everything. "Bring me expensive gifts," Mr. Takahashi continued. "They take me to the finest restaurants. They show me charts and numbers and promise me great profits. They all smile and say exactly what they think I want to hear." Marcus was holding his breath. He had no idea where this was going. "But tonight," Mr. Takahashi said, looking directly at Emma, "I have seen something I have never seen before at a business dinner." Emma finally looked up and met the old man's eyes. She expected to see anger or disappointment, but instead she saw something else, something that looked almost like respect. "I have seen someone risk their own comfort and safety to defend a stranger," Mr. Takahashi said. "Oh, someone who is willing to sacrifice their own interests to stand up for what is right." Hiroshi was nodding as his father spoke. Mr. Sato had stopped, translating, and was just listening. Miss Rodriguez, Mr. Takahashi continued, what you did tonight took great courage. You saw someone being treated unfairly, and you chose to act. You did not think about what it might cost you. You did not worry about what people might think of you. Simply did what you believed was right. Emma felt tears starting in her eyes. This was not what she had expected at all. In Japanese culture, Mr. Takahashi explained, we have a concept called ikigai. It means having a reason for being, purpose that comes from helping others and making the world better. Tonight, you showed us your ikigai. It's the chef who was still standing nearby, looked confused and uncomfortable. He clearly had not expected this turn of events. Mr. Takahashi turned to look at the chef. Sir, I have been coming to fine restaurants for many years. I have seen how the best establishments treat their employees. They train them with patience. They correct mistakes with kindness. They understand that good service comes from people who feel respected and valued. The chef's face was getting red again, but this time it was from embarrassment, not anger. This young man made a small mistake, Mr. Takahashi continued, gesturing toward Diego. But the way you responded to his mistake tells me more about your character than his mistake tells me about his. Diego was staring at Mr. Takahashi with his mouth open, could not believe that this important man was defending him. Now, Mr. Takahashi said, turning back to Marcus, let us talk about business. Marcus felt like he was in a dream. He had been certain that Emma's outburst had destroyed his chances, but somehow the situation was turning around. Mr. Sterling. Mr. Takahashi said, my family has been in business for over 100 years. We have learned that the most important thing about any business partnership is not the numbers on paper. It is the character of the people we work with. Hiroshi leaned forward. What we saw tonight tells us everything we need to know about the kind of person you choose to surround yourself with. And the people we surround ourselves with say a lot about who we are. Emma looked confused. I don't understand, she said. Quietly, Mr. Takahashi smiled at her. It's Miss Rodriguez. Mr. Sterling could have chosen anyone to bring to this dinner. He could have brought someone who would never cause any trouble, who would smile and say nothing and never make waves. But instead, he brought someone with a strong moral compass, someone who cannot stand by and watch injustice happen. Marcus was beginning to understand what Mr. Takahashi was saying. This tells us that Mr. Sterling values integrity over convenience, Hiroshi added. It tells us that he is the kind of person who will do the right thing, even when it is difficult. Mr. Takahashi nodded. We have seen many business proposals that looked good on paper but came from people we could not trust. Tonight, we have seen that you are someone we can trust, Mr. Sterling, not because of your numbers, but because of your character. Emma felt like she was going to faint. Are you saying that what I did was good? What you did was brave and kind and right, Mr. Takahashi replied. These are the qualities we look for in business partners. The chef, who had been listening to this entire conversation, suddenly looked very uncomfortable. He mumbled something about needing to get back to the kitchen and disappeared quickly. Diego was still standing there, not sure what to do. Mr. Takahashi noticed him and spoke directly to him. Young man, he said kindly, what is your name? Diego? Sir, the boy replied nervously. Diego, how long have you been working here? This is my first week, sir. Mr. Takahashi reached into his wallet and pulled out a business card. I own several restaurants in this city. If you ever need a job where you will be treated with respect, call this number. Diego took the card with shaking hands. Thank you. Sir, thank you so much. As Diego walked away, Mr. Takahashi turned back to Marcus and Emma. Ow! Shall we discuss the details of our business partnership? For the next hour, they talked about contracts and timelines and investment amounts.
But
The mood at the table was completely different now. Instead of a formal business meeting, it felt like friends making plans together. Emma mostly listened, still amazed by how the evening had turned out. Every time she looked at Marcus, he was smiling at her with an expression she had never seen. Before, it was proud and grateful and something else she could not quite identify. When dinner was finally over, Mr. Takahashi and Hiroshi shook hands with Marcus and bowed to Emma. Miss Rodriguez, Mr. Takahashi said, "It has been an honor to meet you. I hope we will see you again soon."
Thank you, Emma replied. Thank you for understanding why I had to do what I did. Never apologize for standing up for what is right.
Hiroshi said with a smile. In the car on the way home, Emma and Marcus sat in silence for several minutes. Emma was exhausted from all the emotions of the evening. Marcus was still processing everything that had happened. "I thought I had ruined everything," Emma finally said. Marcus pulled the car over to the side of the road and turned to look at Emma. "You didn't ruin anything. You made it perfect. But I caused a scene. I was supposed to be quiet and polite," Emma, Marcus said seriously. "What you did tonight was the most impressive thing I have ever seen. You risked everything, too. Help someone you didn't even know. You showed those men exactly the kind of person you are. And because of that, they decided they wanted to do business with me." Emma felt tears in her eyes again. "I just couldn't stand watching that chef be so mean to Diego." "I know," Marcus said softly, "and that's exactly why you're amazing." Sat in the car for a few more minutes, both thinking about how much had changed in one evening. Marcus said finally, "I have something to ask you." "What?" "The Takahashi deal is going to require a lot of work over the next few months. I'm going to need someone I trust to help me with it. Someone with good judgment and strong values. Would you be interested in working for my company? Not walking dogs, but as my business partner?" Emma stared at Marcus. "Are you serious? Completely serious? You'd make more money than you ever imagined. You could finish college without worrying about tuition, and you'd be helping to build something important." Emma thought about her small apartment, her 3 jobs, her constant worry about money. Then she thought about Diego and how good it had felt to stand up for him. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I would like that very much." As they drove toward Emma's apartment, both of them knew that their lives had changed forever. Emma was no longer just a dog walker struggling to pay for college. Marcus was no longer just a rich man who cared only about money. Sometimes the most shocking thing someone can do is simply choose to be kind, when it would be easier to stay quiet, and sometimes that choice changes everything. 6 months later, Emma and Marcus were not just business partners. Diego was working at one of Mr. Takahashi's restaurants, where he was treated with respect and kindness. And Max was still the happiest dog in the city, because now he had 2 people who loved him and walked him every day. The most important business deal of Marcus's life had been saved not by charts or numbers or fancy presentations, but by a young woman who could not stand by and watch someone be treated badly. And that, Mr. Takahashi had told them later, was exactly the kind of partner his family wanted to work with.